Hello and welcome to Water Polo New South Wales podcast series. Today we're talking to Angus Lambie and Sienna Green. Of course, my co-host Debbie Watson is here sitting next to me. But we wanted to get you guys together and discuss what it's like being a debutant going to your first Olympic Games and a bit about the backstory about how you got there. So, Angus, let's dive straight in with you. How did you get into water polo, mate?
So I was a swimmer when I started out sort of my sporting career. I was pretty naughty in squad. I didn't actually enjoy the training that much. I enjoyed competing, but training wasn't for me. And I always had an affinity for team sport because I played rugby and soccer and all these other team sports growing up. And so being, a decent swimmer growing up in Cronulla and being exposed to like the beaches and the pools, I eventually found home in the water polo community. And I just it was just like a really good community to grow up in. And it was just like, it just came naturally. Like I enjoyed the camaraderie, like being able to play a team sport in the water as well. And so the rest is history. Swimming wasn't for me.
It's better than chasing a black line.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, a lot of long hours looking at that black line. Haven't fully escaped it playing water polo though. We do a lot of swim sets to make up for it.
And Sienna, you born into a water polo family. Both your mum and dad were players.
Yes, my parents both played at uni, and then I think I was always destined to put on the water polo togs. But I was the same as Gus, started as a swimmer, and then also just got really bored by the black line. So I started water polo when I was about 9, and I fell in love, and the rest is history, I guess.
Did you both make teams early on, apart from your club teams? Like, what was your pathway, getting that first selection into something other than a regular club team?
Yeah, I started off doing flipper ball, which is down at Sutherland Pool. And then I tried out for the Cronulla Sharks representative team at the age of 11. So that was for under 14s. And I was fortunate enough to make that team. So I was surrounded by a few older kids and I was playing up for my age. As far as state selection goes and national team selection, I missed out when I was younger, and I put that down to a lack of experience. And also being a young centre forward, it is quite difficult to be selected in teams if you're not naturally bigger than everyone else, because there's a lot of skill associated with the position. I started out at Cronulla playing that representative level when I was about 11 years old. And then from there, I just continued to be named in that rep side. And then I missed out my first state team selection for under 14s. I did the TAP camp, the Talented Athlete Program, I think is what it stands for. And I didn't make the New South Wales Blues team, which was pretty devastating for me at the time. But I think that sort of fueled my hunger and also made me, want to give it a proper shot. And from there, I made a few junior Australian teams and I didn't really have any issues with selections. There were times where I missed out on the bigger squad. But when I finally broke into the team, I cemented my position at a junior level playing for Australia. So
I'm very similar. I started at flipper ball at Breakers, I think, actually, for about a week. And then I went over to Sydney Uni in under 14s and I was really young. I remember took me about 2 states to even score a goal. So I just got in, I did the swim off and I got out for a while. And then I guess as I progressed, I went through the New South Wales TAP program, as you said. My first team I made was the Waratahs, the B team, and I think that's one of the moments where I guess you're so immersed in such a talented group and you just want to be better. And then I guess I just kept going through the state program and then junior Oz as well. A big interruption for me, I guess, was the COVID break, because that kind of hit right while I was in high school. So I missed a lot of tours because of that, which was a little frustrating. And I guess for me, going into the Olympics this year, I'd never really played for the Stingers before or had a big international tournament. So I think that was a big interruption in just my water polo career. But other than that, I guess just went through Oz teams and now I'm here, I guess.
So not necessarily being the most talented kids in your age group doesn't mean that you can't make it. It's all about determination. Obviously, both of you are very dedicated. You train hard. You've had some setbacks along the way. Maybe you didn't get selected in a team, but it doesn't put you off. I mean, it just fuels your hunger to go a little bit harder.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as I said, personally for me, I don't know if I'd be in the position I am today, having been fortunate enough to go to the Paris Olympics and represent the Australian program. But if it hadn't been for those setbacks, I think when you encounter those, especially at a young age, you kind of it's kind of a fork in the road, and you make a decision about what's important and what you want to pursue. And for me, like, yeah, those setbacks were definitely like defining points in my career because they always made me feel like I wanted it more. And it was never really like wanting to prove people wrong. It's just what I always wanted to see how far I could take it and see, how hard work pays off. And that was it for me. Like, it was never about proving people wrong at all. It was just, like knowing that I could do it, or like putting everything I could into it and then seeing if it paid off.
In spades. How about you, Sienna?
Exactly what Gus said. I think he worded it perfectly, but I guess it's those setbacks where you really remember how much you love the sport and how much you want to be doing it. So it's all good when everything's going well, but it's those moments when you really have to look at your life with water polo that really like pursue to like make you want to go further. So yeah.
I think we've got to be careful. Sometimes we might label a 14 or 15-year-old kid as a superstar. There's a long way to go. There's a long journey. There's a lot of players to get past. There's a lot of work to be done. Let them just be good players and let them develop, because the ones that work hard, for me, I always see the kids that work hard 15, 16, 17, 18 come out in their late teens, early 20s as being the best players.
Yeah. I think that is a big problem that we've had in the past with Australian water polo, is that we struggle to retain some players, especially as like you get older and you see a lot of like talented youth sort of drop out as life becomes a bit more complicated with things like not just like school, but finishing school and university and getting a full-time job. And then your relationships start to become a bit more complicated. You might be dating someone, you've got all these competing priorities and not enough times. Yeah, I think you're right. Like, there's obviously, you're trying to nurture these people who are extremely talented and skillful and that kind of naturally gifted athlete. But at the same time, like, you'll never know who's going to make it. Like, sometimes, hard work and perseverance is just as important. And in my time playing water polo, I've seen so many talented athletes sort of drop off, and it's got nothing to do with, not being good enough. It's just got more to do with the fact that they weren't capable of sticking it out.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, actually. Do we place enough importance on National League? Because I know for both of you and Sienna, I toured with you in the national junior team. And in my eyes, you were ready to go into that Stingers program, but there wasn't space maybe at that time. And, that little 18-month period, which is so dangerous, how do we keep people engaged, or how do we put the importance on National League so people actually go, this is a pathway, this is really important, even though I can't quite get into that national program at the minute? What is it that's going to help engage people and keep those valuable players in the program or in the system?
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack. It's a difficult question to answer because I think that there's not one solution. There's a lot of things that need to be assessed and in order to come up with a solution. And there can't be a band-aid solution either. It's got to be something that we look to ingrain within the National League itself. For me, I think we need to do a better job at developing the National League as a league that basically feeds players into the national program, so to speak. I think that we having to send players overseas to get that experience because we don't have it here at the moment. So we kind of need to rely on, those sort of old club people to share the knowledge and experience and stay around so they can impart that wisdom on the players coming through. But we also, you're right, we need to like foster an environment for young players to enjoy playing water polo, because the reality is like once people stop enjoying playing water polo, they stop playing. So it's a difficult question to answer, but for me, I think we need to retain players because they have a lot of wisdom about, not just water polo, but the way that teams should function, like cultural things. And then we also need to invite talent over from overseas and try and get them in so that we can increase the quality and the standard of the National League. And then we can have like lots of players learning through that sort of competition.
Well, I've got to say, probably for both of you, your development playing, like firstly, New South Wales Water Polo has the Super League, and then you go in the changeover of the year into AWL, which will happen. We're in December now. In January, February onwards, you'll be playing Australian Water Polo League. But to be in the pool for you, Sienna, Arnie Espar, you played a couple of years with her. Richie Campbell for you, Angus. I mean, I'm just picking two players, but some of these great players in World Water Polo that you get to actually play with and develop with. I mean, that's super important. You can do all the high performance training you like, but you've got to actually play the game.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't actually gotten to play with Arnie. I've been very unlucky with my years of not doing National League. But I've been able to play with a lot of amazing players at Sydney Uni. And I mean, it's just what you learn from them is so invaluable. Like, it's just things that you can't learn in like a training session. You got to learn it from the person, you got to learn it from their experiences. And I mean, it makes the whole league better, it makes your team better, just seeing how like the potential of water polo and what people can grow to. I mean, it's invaluable, really.
Gus, a thought on that one? Players you've got to play with
Yeah,
that
I
have helped you
mean,
develop?
like when I first moved from Cronulla to West in 2014 or 15, I think it was, I was playing with Richie Campbell, Joel Dennerly, Lachlan Hollis, Jared Gilchrist. Like, I had these incredible players. And the thing is, like, for me, I took a lot away from Richie Campbell. Obviously, he's been a massive influence and a good friend to me over the years. But even people like Joel Dennerly, he's a goalkeeper, and he taught me so much about leadership and culture and working as part of a unit. And then you've also got to consider the fact that we've had some phenomenal imports over the years, like Nicholas Constantine Bakari, who's coming back this season. He's a centre forward, and he's someone that I actually look up to a lot because he's not only such a phenomenal player, he's just got such a great personality about him as well. But we've had all these imports. We had a few Japanese imports, and they sort of brought their own philosophy towards water polo into the team and showed us how they play over in Japan. And, I think that's, when I say experience, that's what it's all about, is you try to give people as much perspective as possible. And then they get more opportunities to work out what suits them and what style suits their play. So, yeah, like I'm one to benefit massively from not only the homegrown talent, but having people come from overseas to help you improve as a player as well.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we'll move on to the Olympics, I think. I'll just shove, because you've got all this amazing experience, and obviously playing against and training against these people when you turn up to an Olympic event, you've got that experience and you have a lot of confidence in yourselves. But, first of all, how did you actually find out that you'd made the Olympic team? So, Sienna, go first on that one.
I was sitting in my bedroom and I was waiting for my phone call. I remember it came 5 minutes late, so I was sitting there just shaking. But yeah, it was a phone call. I immediately hung up and then ran to my mom, and she was crying. It was probably the most nerve-wracking day of my life, but it turned out good, which was nice.
Perfect. Gus?
Yeah, I was in Montenegro at the time, in my apartment in Kotor. And we had the phone call scheduled, and time ran a bit over, and I was sitting there waiting, and that 10 minutes delay felt like an eternity. But yeah, I got the phone call from Tim, and he had good news for me. And immediately after I spoke to him and thanked him for the opportunity, I called my family on FaceTime, and we shared that moment together. And I'm not so proud that I wouldn't say that there were a few tears. It was pretty emotional, but yeah, it was a good phone call to get. It was really special.
It's that selection is such a big moment, but it's just the start of another journey, isn't it? Really, because you want to represent Australia, you want to go to the Olympic Games, and you want to do really well, which both teams did. I mean, the Stingers and the Sharks were amazing, and the support from back home, watching it, and everybody was just cheering for both teams. And obviously, Sienna, you've come home with a silver medal, and Gus, you guys knocked over some of the biggest teams in the world. You knocked over the Olympic gold medalists. I mean, it was an amazing journey. I want to your first game, when you're on the podium, your name's read out, the anthem's played, you're jumping in to play your first game, Sienna.
Oh my goodness. I'm scared I've blacked out the moment a lot from the stress, but hearing the anthem play, you're with your teammates that you've spent the whole year with. I mean, it's just such an incredible moment, and you're just so grateful for all of the time and work and that everyone's put into your journey, and just looking around, it's just a very humbling moment. And then jumping in the pool, I don't know if I was thinking more stress or just excitement, but it's just so much emotion going on, and you see the crowd around you. There's nothing quite like it.
Just before Gus goes, your first Olympic goal. Do you remember it? That's another little add-on to that one, and we'll get Gus to do the same thing. First time you scored at the Olympics.
Okay, my first Olympic goal, I don't even remember it, to be honest. Let me think. No, I think for me, I think I remember it now. But it was just so much excitement. I was going in with quite a lot of nerves, and just to finally put the ball away, I mean, it's just a relief. But I got to claim it, which I never really do. But, there's so much energy going on. It comes out of you. I can't explain it. But yeah, it was just insane. And it was so, nothing really beats it. I mean, scoring a goal at the Olympics, the way that the crowd gets around you, the way that your team gets around you, it's just the best feeling in the world.
So, Gus, yeah, your moment when the game starts, your first game at Olympics and your first goal?
Yeah, wow. I think I'm the same as Sienna a bit. Like it's kind of like it's coming back to me in like little bits because it was such an emotional experience that you kind of just block it all out because you're there and you got to focus on the game. But I remember being in the tunnel with the boys and, like we had some of our kind of insider, I guess, some of the things that we would say to each other before the game started and that to try and compose ourselves. But I remember feeling nervous. I remember not being able to stand still. I remember walking out and being like, what if I trip over? What if I do something ridiculous on the international stage? I remember looking up into the crowd and seeing all of my supporters there. So my family, my godparents, a couple of mates that I grew up with, and they had these ridiculous Gus Bus shirts on. So they kind of ambushed me with those. And just, for me, like the point that solidified that we had made it was that when we sang the anthem, like I'm not embarrassed to say that I'm an extremely like patriotic person. I love Australia and I love, like all the opportunities that I've had being from such a fortunate country. And so when that anthem played and we got to sing it side by side, and it's kind of that experience was sort of when I locked in, and I was not really nervous as I was excited at that point. Yeah, so there was a lot of emotions flying around, and it was pretty good. And we were coming up against Spain as well, so that was Spain's a pretty dominant team, and they had a disappointing result at the Olympics, but we knew that they were a force to be reckoned with going into it. So yeah, and then for the first goal, I remember it very vividly, which is quite funny. And I remember sort of getting the ball, and I'd had some issues like leading up to the game with like holding the ball in my hand, and I think that was a lot of nerves and tension. And I remember just the ball just sat right. I got that over the top pass, and it sat right on my hand, and I came up, and I was kind of shocked how far out the goalkeeper was. He was right in my face, so I just came up out of the water and just placed it over him with a subtle lob. And I can't tell you how many times I've been told not to lob the ball by coaches, but I did it, and it paid off, which was pretty good. Yeah, and I remember, like, as Sienna said, like, I'm not one to usually claim my goals, but I guess given that, it's the Olympics and it was my first goal, it was necessary to claim it. And I just remember turning around, screaming so hard at the bench that I felt like all of the oxygen had just left my body, and I was like, I'm going to pass out here in the pool. So, yeah, a lot of emotions and a lot of good ones, fortunately. So, yeah.
So I'm correct with my memory. Gus, your first was a centre forward goal, and Sienna, yours was an outside shot?
I think so.
Yeah, it was. I was driving. I think so.
I actually think that's beautiful that you don't know.
I was driving into centre forward.
Driving.
Yeah.
Oh, you got the driving
Very
goal.
humble.
Okay, driving into centre forward. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, it's in the back of the net. Deb, go.
What about your roles going into the Olympic Games? Because obviously you train for something quite specific where for UC, you might just, centre back's going to be your main thing. And for you, Gus, maybe a driving centre forward game. But once you get into the Olympics and once the tournament gets going and maybe there's little niggles or the game changes, those plans often can go out the window. So your expectations of what you were going to play to what actually unfolded, how different were they from the beginning to the end of the Olympic Games? Go, CC.
Yeah, I think for me, heading into it, I knew my main role was going to be as a centre back. And I think it did kind of follow that throughout the games. But I mean, the way that international water polo is moving, you have to be able to play everywhere. You have to be able to adapt, especially if a team's running like a drop or something. So I think maybe as the games went on, it moved towards more like a driver and a mover and a filler.
Did you have to do exactly what you thought? That's basically it? Did your role change within the games itself? Like, did you end up doing more attacking than you thought, or did you get more minutes than you thought you would get as well? Because sometimes you might go into a tournament thinking, if I get like 2 minutes each quarter, or I'm going to be happy with that.
The thing I love to do is just put my head down and get to the two and just fill in a spot, do what's needed. I'll literally do anything that's needed. I think that's the way the game went, especially going on when foul trouble became an issue. Just being able to adapt and maybe play a bit of post-up centre forward as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm a type of player that plays anywhere.
Put you in the water. I'm happy to do whatever.
Anything. Perfect.
So, Gus, as centre forward, though, you play sort of very specific minutes. You're in for a pretty dynamic moment. You're out, getting a rest, coming back in again and doing that rotation with the other centre forwards. It's it's a very different role as centre forwards, not playing the big minutes of say, utility player.
Yeah, it's a very specialist position, and it's one that requires, like a lot of, I guess, for lack of a better word, explosive movements. So you're kind of working almost anaerobically, which is hard because Australian water polo, as I'm sure you guys are aware, is we sort of pride ourselves on how good we are at swimming up and down the pool and how fit we are as well. And that was sort of our game plan a lot of the time, was to swim like the other teams into the ground and just make it as difficult as possible for them to play their sort of champagne water polo with, these beautiful executions of their shots. Our job was to basically fatigue the other team. And then I guess for me, which was a bit unusual, is that I was sort of playing a different role in the sense that I was doing a lot of hockey subs. And the expectation was, as soon as I did a hockey sub, it was get to 2 meters as quickly as possible. I'm sure if anyone who watched the game, you'd see me hockey sub in and then I'm sprinting as fast as I can to 2 meters. And it's kind of like, it was nice because you take the momentum in with you and then you just work as hard as possible. And that sort of, I think, in my opinion, and I've spoken to Tim about this, I think that really suited my style of play. Yeah, so I think when we talk about adapting strategies, I think that one of the things that we did really well as a team, and it probably the reason that we had such success in those big games in the pool stages, was that we stuck to our systems and we stuck to our game plan that Tim and Vedran and Andrew Nitzis had put into place. So for me, the only thing that sort of changed was on that individual level was, instead of going up and back and being in that fight the whole time, it was more picking your moments and being explosive and making those opportunities on players that had been going up the whole game and sort of capitalizing on their fatigue almost. So, but yeah, we're a pretty fortunate team to be as fit as we were. We had players coming up to us after the games being like, what the hell did you guys do for preparation? Like, I've never been so exhausted. So there were some big compliments that came out of that as well, which was really good.
You've played against Japan a few times. That's how you know how to play with your heart up in your throat.
Yeah, up in Brisbane in the heat, and we had ice blocks on the side of the pool to keep us going. But yeah, those Japanese guys are on another level. They're so fit. Their training must be just insane.
Are the Japanese women much the same? Sienna, you've played against them a few times.
Only in juniors.
Japanese women, they sort of go up and down.
Yeah, that's my recollection. But I have to say, as a centre forward, they're the team you want to play. So on the outside, very difficult.
Yeah. So biggest influences on your career, is there people that you want to say thank you to that sort of got you to the point of being an Olympian? And obviously, hopefully for both of you, the path continues through to LA in 28, barring injury and motivation stays the same and everything's good. I'm hoping both of you continue. But who's helped you get there? Who's the big influences in your career, Sienna?
Can Gus go first? That's a really deep question.
Yeah, I can go first. That's fine. Yeah, for me, I mean, how long do we have? There's so many people that I could thank, and I could probably attribute my success to. Obviously, starting with my parents. Like when you're younger and you aren't as you're not independent yet, I guess you rely on them a lot in order to, I guess, fuel you, get you the training, look after you, make sure that you're, like if you get injured, they've got the contacts to get you a physio, all that sort of stuff. At a club level, I guess there's so many people from Wests that, have helped me and developed me, not only from as we said earlier, people like Richard Campbell, like the players, but also the coaching staff. So Andrew Nitzis is someone who's been in my corner for a very long time, and he's helped develop me as a player from, Australian juniors all the way to the senior men's team now. I guess who else is there? It's honestly, there's so many people that I need to thank. There's people that I work with who have been super supportive and they've helped me out. They've given me time off so I could pursue my dream as well. And then there's even people like Tom Brady is an example that I use because I know it's a bit ridiculous, but he's a quarterback in the NFL. He played for the New England Patriots before he moved to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And he's widely considered one of the greatest
Super Bowl rings, doesn't he?
Yeah, with rings, yeah. They consider him the GOAT, which is the greatest of all time. And I really like his story is that he wasn't drafted early, because obviously when you finish in the college league, you get drafted into the NFL, and he wasn't drafted in the early rounds, and he was someone that they didn't really look to with much potential, and just through a lot of hard work and sheer determination, he was good enough to become the greatest of all time. And he's a really interesting story, and hearing his story was something that helped me a lot, sort of define, I guess, my pathway. to being in the team. So yeah, there's all those people that help you out, but there's also all those stories that you can learn from along the way from other athletes, which has been good. Tom Brady's just an example. There's plenty of them though.
Over to you, Sienna.
Okay. I mean, of course, my parents, time and effort and energy they put into my water polo career is just like I could never thank them enough for that. Like the early mornings to end Swiss, everything. And then the fact that they still come and support me every single day, it's just incredible. And then on a club level, like harking back to like people that impacted you on your water polo career, I have to give a shout out to Holly Lincoln Smith, her former name. She was one of the first players I got to play with on the national league team when I first joined, and I think she really impacted my like first taste of senior water polo. And then it was so amazing to be able to play with her again in the lead up to the Olympics. And then I also have to thank like the coaching staff, the Stingers, who just took me under their wing. I mean, Beck, Taryn, Eddie, Lorenzo, everyone just had so much patience and like they saw so much in me. And I think that is like it's made such a difference in my last like year of my water polo, and just also the team who have supported me every second. I mean, the Stingers team is something that has been absolutely incredible, and I don't think I'll ever be on a team like that again with the amount of support and love we had for each other. So yeah, just as Gus said, I probably need to thank so many more people, but that's all I can think of for now.
No, all the people know that, along over the years, you say thank you to people and they all know, and they hope that they've ever had a positive influence on you and helped you in some small way, even in the smallest way, even the person that carries the water bottles and helps you rehydrate. I mean, it all will help, like pretty minor things, but still everybody helps along the way. So you got a question, Deb?
Can I go back a little? I just wanted to talk about just the highs and lows of the penalties, obviously, because it had such a massive impact. And exactly. And, obviously you knew going into the Olympics that every game had to have a result, which is something, obviously it's going to be penalties is going to be super important. So I suppose in the preparation, how much thought went into the penalties at the end of the game when there was a draw? How did you determine who was going to take the penalties? What was the team's attitude towards whether you won or lost in a penalty shootout? Because there's so much at stake with them, but are they a lottery as well? So Cece, because you had some success with the old penalties.
Yes, penalties was very essential for us in our campaign. Yeah, we definitely had them in the back of our mind going into the Olympics. I mean, we have such a strong shooting team, so I don't think we ever doubted ourselves for a second, and I think that's why we were so successful throughout the Olympics. But I mean, we would come into the wall and it was just whoever wanted to shoot them would shoot them, and we're so lucky that we have such a deep team of shooters and that every time we just backed each other 100%. And yeah, I don't want to go through that again. That was very stressful.
It was stressful for us, and we were only watching. And Gus with the men?
Yeah, I mean, obviously less successful in the penalties department. Yeah, to be honest with you, it's something that we had thought about, but it was never something that we like put pressure on ourselves about either. Like it wasn't something that we felt under pressure for. And I put that, like for me personally, like as a centre forward, I'm not really going to take penalties, but I knew that if the opportunity came up, or I guess I was called upon to take a penalty, I would take it. And I think at that kind of level, all those doubts and fears and insecurities and all that concern about potentially missing is at the back of your mind, because the reality is like you've got a job to do. And I'm really grateful, like a lot of people on my team approached it exactly that way. They knew that they had a job to do. I know some of the guys really struggled after missing the penalties in the US game, and I know that definitely weighed on their conscience a bit. But to be honest with you, like I think you spoke about it before, is like penalties can be a bit of a lottery. Like there's so many variables and there's so many ways that it can go wrong. And, like at the end of the day, I think we got really unfortunate to lose to the US in penalties. And I think, and a credit to Tim as well, he did a really good job of managing our expectations going into the penalties. And people put their hand up to, there's a degree of bravery in that people put their hand up to take penalties, like they believed in themselves. And I think when you have a player that's willing to believe in themselves, all you can do is back them in and let them take that opportunity. Like for me, like I play with one of the older guys in the team, and I play with people like Matt Burns and Chaz Poot, who are younger. And And both of those guys, as much as I, get into them about being overly confident, is they would always step up to the plate and just do their job, and they would have no issues doing that. So when they were ready to take penalties for the team, no one was going to question them, and no one was going to doubt that they, or have a concern that they weren't going to score it. And I still feel that way, even though obviously it didn't work out against the US. I still have confidence in those guys to score when we need them to score.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, when you get a penalty, somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose, and you don't lose the game because, everyone's contributed to the point where you go and you've got to shoot penalties. So you could look back at so many moments in the game where maybe you should have done better or you did do better or whatever. So it is a lottery, and it is maybe a great way to win, a hard way to lose, but it is the game, and that's what you sign up for, to take what comes your way and do your absolute best on the way.
Yeah, big time. We have this term price of entry, and that's one of the prices of entry. If you want to compete at the big stage, you gotta ride out those emotions, and you gotta make the hard decisions as well.
So Sienna, you're heading back to US college, and how far through your college degree are you there? And then obviously playing in that US college system is such a high level competition to develop yourself in is fantastic as well.
Back to UCLA tomorrow, actually. Yeah, this is my second season. I redshirted my last, so I have 3 more years at UCLA pretty much. Yeah, the level you get in America is incredible. I get to play against the same people I played at the Olympics, but now I guess I get to get a degree at the same time. So it's a really good opportunity, and I'm really excited to go back and just see all my college friends and also just get back to grinding. We have Hell Week in 2 days.
Yeah.
Hell Week, we're having Hell Week too. It's the week after Christmas.
So lots of swimming, but it's all worth it.
Gus, did you spend some time overseas, and then obviously you're working now, supporting yourself and playing in the Australian leagues?
Yeah, I spent a year over in Montenegro competing, and I took time away from work. I was fortunate enough to be granted leave without pay for about a year, so I could pursue that. And then that was all for preparation for the Olympics. And now I'm back in Australia, and I'll be playing in the National League this season, and just working to support myself.
It's been fantastic to have you guys on the podcast series. This is an ongoing thing with Water Polo New South Wales that Deb and I are doing, and just to be able to tell your story, some of the backstories that people might not know. Fantastic that you guys open up and let us know your journey, a little bit of your journey. I mean, there's a lot of other details there. We could talk for hours and hours. But look, I've just got to say, on behalf of the water polo community, we love watching both of you compete in the Stingers and the Sharks over the Paris Olympics, and we love watching you play in the local domestic leagues. And we just hope that your international careers keep going on an upward trajectory and you have much, much success in the future.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for having us. It's been really nice to talk to you about sort of our individual journeys, but also give you guys an insight into how our teams functioned as well during the Olympics.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Okay, last question. What do you do flat out for 100?
I have no idea.
Jeez.
I saw what you were repeating on the other day. They were pretty quick.
That's a bit of a backstory because someone asked me once, what do you think Gus does at the end of 10 100s at the end of a hard set? I was trying to give him, something to come back at me at, and I said, I think about 62, 63. He was very upset. I think it was about a 56 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, he made, what was it? Yeah, he always puts challenges to me every now and again. And he's like, I remember one time we were at St. Cat's and we did a massive swim set, and we had a few other things to do. And he goes, if you can swim under a minute for this, then everyone can get out and go home. So I swam at 54.
Wow. Yeah, I'm definitely not swimming at 54.
Oh, 54.
I don't know. I was pretty destroyed the rest of the day, but I managed to pull that one out, which was good. But yeah, Tim is very good at motivating people, and he is someone that I like to prove wrong every now and again.
Centre forward to do 54. I don't know if there's too many centre forwards in the world to do 54 for 100. So it's great to see the big men motor.
Glad you didn't ask me how fast I swim 100 now, because it wouldn't be that.
No, yeah, come on, you're on recovery and building back up again. You've got plenty of time, so you'll be right. It's Christmas, full of Christmas pudding. You don't have to swim too fast at the moment.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, guys, enjoy the rest of your Christmas, New Year break, and obviously time with loved ones and family. And Sienna, enjoy Hell Week.
Thinking of you.
Thinking of you. I'll be getting tired thinking about it. And Gus, mate, obviously the build up to the AWL kicking off in January.
Yeah, big build up. We'll get back in the pool as soon as possible, and hopefully another successful National League season for the Magpies again.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Guys, it's been a pleasure.